Hello, everybody. It's me, Natalie from Creative Makers, and I am here this morning with my friend Tim Sellers, multifaceted individual, definitely the definition of an artist that uses multiple mediums, has a life that uses multiple mediums.
I'm three-dimensional.
Three-dimensional, multi-dimensional. Thank you. Anyway, so here, we're going to have a little chat.
Cheers.
It looks like water, but it's not.
Yeah, it's pure H2O.
Oh. All right, so I'm going to ask you the first question I usually ask everybody is tell me about your childhood. No, tell me about being a creative kid. What did it look like for you? I mean, did it show up in some special way?
Oh yes. I was a kid who was always drawing, and I drew a lot of dragons.
Dragons are good.
Monsters, things with teeth.
The imaginary side.
Yeah.
Of drawing.
And then and I also drew from life.
Yeah.
Because we were in the woods, and so I was just drawing trees and flowers and anything really.
Did it show up as something extraordinary? I mean, was it recognized?
Yeah, I was the artsy kid.
The artsy
right
kid.
off the bat. Kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah.
It was me and Dwayne Spalding.
And Dwayne. Is Dwayne still an artist too?
He is. I think he's still an artist. Yeah.
That's nice. I like hearing that people stick with it.
Yeah.
They don't let it go. And so, how did that move along as being a kid? So you were the big drawer, but you learned how to do lots of stuff.
Yeah. So I was sort of raised by, broadly speaking, hippies in the woods of upstate New York, and so we were different in our little context. Plus, we were in the woods and hardly ever went to town or,
Slightly sheltered.
It was pretty remote, and then the winter would come, and it was even more isolated. Than, yeah, but it
doesn't sound like a bad thing though.
It was a mixture. I was dying for more interaction, but I also loved just reading books and drawing stuff and doing my own thing.
Well, you're a smart guy though. That had to come into play with all the art and stuff. I always think of you as Mensa level.
I mean, my parents. It's interesting if you do have a smart kid. How do you raise that smart kid, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to overly tell them they're smart,
right?
And spoil them and make them too precious. You want to keep it real.
Are you telling me that your parents did not tell you that you were smart?
I think they told me that I was smart, but they were like, "Well, our whole family's pretty smart, so." And I do think thinking you're special is a trap, and broadly speaking, you should be careful with it.
Yeah.
Sure you're special, but most of us are special in some way, and specialness can, mislead you.
Yes, if you aren't humble about it, maybe.
Yeah, you got to keep humble, even if you're feeling kind of like, oh yeah, I'm awesome at something. Be okay with it.
So you're an artist and you're smart. How did you even pick between the two as you were moving up through the world?
Well,
I mean, it would have been easy, I think, to probably for somebody like you to just as easily have been a philosopher or a scientist or something.
Well, I mean, and that was sort of the thing as I grew up. I think there was that, are you going to be an artist or are you going to be some professional person?
Yeah.
And because, everyone knows, how are you going to make a living as an artist? And even when you're 10, they sort of start that discussion, don't they?
Yeah. I think even younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and then later on, that's kind of why I went to a liberal arts college instead of to art school. Although, who knows, I think all paths could work and all paths might not work, or however you want to define work.
So you made an intentional decision not to focus on the arts.
Oh, I focused on the arts, and I wonder if I should have just gone to art school after all. I was interested in all sorts of things, physics and geology and, novels and literature.
What was your major?
So I started out with the ambitious and awesome sounding double major of art and astrophysics. It just sounds like, yes, I'm going to conquer the universe. And then at some point you're like, well, each of those is a universe, and what I did was I decided to double major in art history and art.
Ah,
so that I could sort of babble about art and enjoy all that has come before us and go deep into the making of art, both.
I didn't realize, though, that astrophysics was actually an aspect.
I mean, it wasn't. I started out taking a lot of science in college, yeah. I was very sciencey.
Very sciencey.
Yes, in fact, we have an album about scientists.
Yes, we'll talk about your delve into music and your remaining there firmly.
Yes.
All right, so because I know you're an artist already, yes. But when did you start playing an instrument?
So my family loved music, and my dad is a music fanatic and fan, and my mom loved music. In fact, she was a dancer way back when she was a kid, ballet dancer and all this stuff. And we loved music, but we were sort of shy. And so we didn't play instruments, we were just scared of public stuff.
All of you?
Pretty much. My mom's a teacher, so she was able to get up in front of people, but...
Well, and if she was a dancer, she had to dance in public.
So I suppose that was the scrap that we had.
The scrap? She represented for the whole family?
Yeah, so my dad was terrified. You know, he's a hermit. Still is.
Oh, that's right. You told me that.
He's a hermit.
He's a little crotchety, too.
Crotchety.
Sorry,
hermit.
Dad, if you're watching.
He won't watch. He's a hermit. Hi, Mom. And so we loved music, but we didn't play anything. Like, you know, back in 4th grade, I played the recorder until I got too embarrassed and kind of freaked out and quit. You know.
This is hilarious to me because you're the least embarrassed person I know on stage. And the lengths that you will go to in order to perform.
Yeah, and then I busted through it. But I want people to know, like, I was then even through college, I was like, I didn't want to take any classes with public speaking component.
Oh my God.
I was terrified, and I think that might be why I have extra pizzazz when I do go for it, because I'm breaking through my own little issues.
It's like therapy every time you get on stage.
Kind of. I mean, I was, you know, and I feel weird talking about myself this much. I want to ask you some questions.
Oh, come on, no. That's not. There's no time for that.
All right.
This is all about you.
You know, it's
because these are the things that I can't ask in polite company. You know,
sure you can.
No, well, I can't dive like it. I can't like focus in on you, and because nobody else is around here to distract, I get to just like.
This is great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean. And I just want to say an aside, paying attention is like the ultimate compliment in modern internet and public society. I mean, you're doing a radical thing here by just asking questions and giving a crap. It's amazing.
Well, thank you.
It's beautiful.
That's all we'll say about me. Back to you.
I almost did it.
You almost did it.
I tried.
No, all right. So you had to buzz through this thing about actually getting out there in front of people and doing stuff. I mean, art didn't count for that for you?
Well, so I had a history, you know, all through my childhood of being good at drawing and experimental and having creative thoughts and reading books and being a weirdo. So I was already firmly in that zone. And I wasn't a performer if I thought anything was aimed at me. Like, I was just scared and I would, you know.
But if you did a picture and then it got hung on the wall and then, you know, your name's on it.
Yeah.
People then recognized you. That didn't count in your world as some sort of attention-getting item?
I liked attention, but I was scared of the spotlight.
You didn't want to stand in it while people were looking.
Yeah.
If they looked at something you did rather than you, that was
sure.
okay.
You know, like, it's always, I think most people enjoy, you know, like, hey, well done, you know, pat on the back, public, or even semi-public commendation. Nice job. I was going to say, you know that Seinfeld thing where he talks about there's some study where more people are afraid of public speaking than are afraid of death. And so Seinfeld's joke was, so most people would rather be in the coffin than doing the eulogy.
That's probably that. Yeah, I don't remember which one that was on.
Which is a telling, I don't think that's ultimately. I think if push came to shove, most people would give a talk rather than die. But when answering a questionnaire, a lot of us are afraid of getting up in public and being an idiot in the bad way.
So when did you learn how to start playing guitar?
So all through college, I loved music, and I dove deep and I listened to tons of music, and I cultivated what I love, an understanding of what I loved about music, pop music, while making art. So I'm painting and drawing, and but at the same time, little did I know I was studying music. Right,
because
as a fan.
Exactly.
And I think
fans often know way more than you have to be a fan, I think, to be a really good musician, because fans are the ones that, did you hear that drum solo? Do you hear that, what that horn's doing there? And if you're not a big fan, you're just like, yeah, that's really pretty.
Especially if we're talking pop music, like there's classical musicians who can play Beethoven, and they may not have written any music, but they're a terrific piano player or something like that. And but if you want to write songs or write music parts that aren't written by someone else, then being a big fan first is a help.
Right.
So I grew up not playing anything but loving music, and then finally, so Allison and I got married in 1995. And we moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, not one of those other Pittsburghs, and she was in grad school for costume design. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get a guitar. So I got a $100 Fender Stratocaster, and it came with a free ice cube tray.
Are you kidding?
Not kidding.
It came with...
Which said Pittsburgh Guitars on it.
Oh my God, okay.
And I bought a little amp, and like a tiny, even worse than these little amps. And I started working. And so I was 27 when I bought a guitar. And I had never played anything, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to see how this goes. And I got my beginning guitar book and learned a couple chords.
All right, 27. Let this be an inspiration to you. If you, I honestly, I didn't pick up bass until I was in my 30s, but I played other instruments before. But still, 27, that is really a big deal.
It was a big deal, and my fingers were reluctant to do new things, and so I decided to go easy on myself. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Like, I've always been like, you're not going to be a great guitar player. That's cool. You don't have to be. There are great guitar players if you need one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can be the guy who comes up with weird songs and has a couple chords, and so that's what I did, and I've just maintained that. And I remember so I decided to do a year where I would just play for at least an hour every day. And I usually did 4 hours every day, because that's how I do things.
Right. You're in and all in.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting huge calluses on my fingers, and I'm annoying my neighbors, and I'm just attempting to make a sound out of my noise hole while strumming any chord. And finally I could do that, and it was like flying. It was like the greatest feeling.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed.
And so how long did it take you to write your first song?
Oh, pretty quick. Like, as soon as I could do that, I was writing not great songs, but, going for it, because I know that's what you have to do.
Yeah, you have to do that.
All
right, I want to go back to art for just a second.
Yes.
Because I know this music thing is a big, giant part of you, but so is art. So so coming out of school, what did you end up doing? How did you make your art, how did you manifest your art?
So coming out of high school or college?
Let's talk about college.
Okay, so I got out of college in 1990, and at the time I was doing big black and white photographs. And I was kind of listening to a lot of Tom Waits and driving around in New England and New York State and going into abandoned houses and staging stuff and making these creepy kind of Joel Peter Whitkin, Ralph Eugene Meat Yard, all the photographers with a cool middle name.
None of which I know, but okay.
You guys can Google that if you don't know it.
Yeah.
But I had come from a strong drawing and painting area, and of course, instead of pursuing that. Senior year, I take one photography class, and I had a great professor, and so then I started doing photographs, and that was the '90s for me.
So you spent 10 years just taking pictures and staging stuff.
Yeah, and so in Massachusetts, in New York, in San Francisco, and you know, traveling around in the first bumpy years out of college, and working terrible little jobs like at UPS and at a bookstore and hardware store and stuff, and taking these pictures and printing them, and then I got some shows. And
I was just gonna say, so you got into galleries or
I
whatever?
got into galleries, and I got a couple grants.
Oh, cool.
And I was doing pretty well. And then I made the mistake of picking up a guitar.
Oh, so that thwarted everything.
Well, I don't know if it thwarted. So the big picture is, '90s was photographs mostly, but then in '98 we moved out here, so I lost the abandoned houses that had been my main
Yeah, there are no abandoned
location.
houses in Los Angeles.
Yeah, the abandoned houses here have people in them.
Yes, yeah.
So I came out in '98, and I decided to get over my fear of public stuff, and I played a couple little solo shows under the name Artichoke, because I was like, I wanted it to be a band, even when it was just me, from the start.
Well, then it took the emphasis off of you. It wasn't, hi, Tim Sellers, singer-songwriter. Now it was Artichoke, and people are probably like, what the hell is an artichoke?
Yeah, does that guy think he has a band?
Music show.
Yeah,
Right.
And I did imagine I had a band, because the music I listened to was bands. It was the Pixies, or They Might Be Giants, or, you know, Sonic Youth or something with, you know. And so solo people, I did listen to Tom Waits and Robin Hitchcock, but even their solo records are many instruments.
Yeah.
So I've always liked a bunch of weird noises and some rockage and some interesting lyrics. So it's hard to do that if you're going to stay strictly solo.
Yeah. Well, you need layers, most definitely.
So I got to LA and started doing music, and I started paying the bills by working as a scenic artist.
Okay. So tell everybody what a scenic artist is, because this isn't necessarily self-explanatory.
So for theater and TV and movies, people are painting either backdrops, or they're aging furniture. They're either making things look newer, older, more messed up, less messed up, or actual backdrops with scenery and, you know,
Making
sometimes
something look like something else.
Yeah. So it's usually a quick and dirty way of painting, and you have an art director who tells you what they want to do, like wood graining, fake rocks, all this stuff. I worked on SeaWorld and a bunch of Yellow Submarine movie theaters using the Beatles art.
That sounds fun.
So sometimes I was doing stuff I would never have thought of, techniques and methods that I would never have really wanted to do, but I sometimes learned good stuff. I'm an excellent ruster.
Ruster.
If you need something rusted, let me know.
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Although you can make your own with metal
Oh, yeah.
and steel.
What do you use?
Well, I mean, you know, there's real rust.
Right. Oh, you can actually paint it on stuff?
Oh, and this is another thing. Like, if you don't want to use paint, if you don't want to make painted rust,
Yeah.
you can get a product which is full of iron oxide or iron, and then
Yeah.
you oxidate it with an activator.
Oh.
You paint this stuff on, and then you spray it, and then you let it rust at high speed. It is very fun.
They do that with copper too. So
Yeah.
you can patina copper really
Oh, yeah.
quickly. I used to love that.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did that. How long were you a scenic painter?
Kind of like 10 years. My body started to fall apart because it's hardcore. I wasn't union, and so it was like a lot of long days on your feet, often bad health environments.
Yeah.
And so I'd sort of segued into odd jobs and, you know, trying to not do that so much.
But meanwhile, you were painting for yourself.
Yeah, I was doing some painting. I was having some neck and back problems from all the photography. Working in the darkroom often involves looking down.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tension from, you know, long hours. Like, I would work my day job, and then I would go do 7 hours in the darkroom, and then with plus a lot of coffee and a lot of pixies, and pretty soon my neck was all messed up.
It stacks up. You can only bounce your head around so much.
Yeah. And so a few factors made me leave photography behind as my main medium. I didn't have the... Oh, here comes some motorcycles.
Yeah, Tim lives on a street where it's like a thoroughfare, very much like my house. Wow, there's a lot. That must have been like 10 or 12 of them, right?
Yeah, it's a weekend, so the motorcycles are out. We're on Figueroa Street, which I've featured in many songs at this point.
Yeah, but his studio and front porch actually overlooks the street, and so you can see people passing by. We're in his studio right now.
It's sort of a... Yeah, our location is very urban and yet up off the street.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Okay, going back, so you stopped. You had to stop photography mostly because your body was just like, nope. Can't
Yeah, I was having neck troubles, and you know, similar with the scenic art. Like I was doing pretty well, but I was also starting to have some physical problems, and so trying to back out and do my own schedule, like do odd jobs, build fences, and you know, whatnot.
You've done a lot of that. I mean, I know you remodeled your own kitchen.
Yeah.
You did all your own floor, the tiling in your floors. You've done a lot, especially to this place.
Yeah, and this porch, for example, wasn't glassed in when we bought it.
Oh, it wasn't?
Yeah, this was where the house started, actually.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
So then I secured a New York City apartment worth of space just by putting windows on this porch, and you know it's been great because LA is also not a place where it's easy to have cheap space.
No,
as you know,
no.
as you guys know.
Yeah, it's really expensive here. Okay.
So I sort of stopped doing photography, but I kept going with painting and with music, and it's you know so. Well, what do you want to go with? The
Well,
music
I want to get to music,
yes.
but I want to finish up with art because there's a lot of stuff that you've done that's really incredible, and I want to just sort of go there first. So, I mean, I've known you since what, 2007 or 8ish?
Let's see.
Maybe 9ish.
Might even be earlier.
No, I think it's 9ish because it was definitely with Dave, and Dave and I got together in 2007.
Because didn't we play that TV show?
Yes.
In like 2007?
Was it 7?
Or 6, perhaps.
No, it wasn't 6.
All right.
I was still with my husband in 6.
Ah, yes. The markers.
the life markers so that you know where you are. All right, so
so the late.
I mean, you were painting though, and you were having shows.
So I was still working as a scenic artist then. I probably was having shows at the Future Studio.
Yes.
So there's a nice studio down here on Figueroa Street, and they have a landmark called Chicken Boy on the roof, which Amy Inuyi secured from some other location and had it installed on the roof of their gallery.
It's sort of famous at this point.
It's a famous Highland Park icon, and Allison and I, my wife Allison, we had shows there, a couple shows.
Also a really incredible artist who reluctantly will not sit for us. But
yes.
We'll talk about that another day.
But you're going to see a couple of her pictures when we go inside.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
So tell me about, because it sounds like you were focused mostly on drawing as you were growing up. And then is scenic painting where you actually, scenic stuff, is that where you learned how to paint?
Well, I painted all through college. I feel like I never really learned how to... I still don't, to my satisfaction, have the ability to paint freely with color. One of the challenges of being an art history major is you're acutely aware of all the world of, genius that came before you. And so, even if you try to be nice to yourself, you know that there was John Singer Sargent and all these great painters before you. So, it's hard to be satisfied. But I've been working at it.
I'm glad. I think, you know what, your art is incredible, and I think it's worth loving.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, and
you did a whole series. Let's talk about the series on vegetables.
Oh, yeah. So I had the idea of making just friendly pictures without a lot of irony and without a lot of, because all through my college and the 90s, I think I was trying to be edgy. I was trying to make stuff that was edgy.
I think
because when you're in college, that's what they tell you to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be. I wanted to push boundaries and stuff.
I think that it's very much a representation of you.
Thank you.
Honestly, yeah.
But I saw what people like to live with, and I was thinking,
there's that, yeah.
You don't always want like some gnarly thing in your living room. So when you sit down to dinner, you see something a little too disturbing for your vibe at that time,
Right. People want peaceful a lot of times.
They often do.
When they walk in, they want to go,
Yeah.
not ah!
Yeah. So I'd done a whole lot of like myself naked in an abandoned house hanging from a pipe.
Yeah, no.
I'd done that.
People probably don't want that in their house.
Oh, I have sold a couple.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, good.
But we'll talk about that off camera. So then I was like, okay, one thing I haven't done, I'm always kind of like, this fits in with your group. People who might be restless, looking for the thing they haven't done. So one thing I hadn't done was make like conventional, not obviously edgy pictures. I didn't want to be, cheesy or bad, according to my definitions, but I wanted to do something that was friendly. Mm-hmm. That was my word. So I thought, I'll just do big vegetables, kind of like, perhaps you've seen Rene Magritte's picture of a huge orange mm-hmm. in a room. Mm-hmm. And so it's still surreal and it's weird because the orange is too big, and how would you get it in the room, and who could eat that orange, and all that.
All the things you must think about.
So it was still weird, but it was kind of nice. It was sort of friendly. It was like, oh, it's a giant orange. So I started doing these giant vegetables, squash, mushrooms, and tomatoes and stuff.
Yeah. They're really beautiful.
And at this point, some of them I like and some of them I don't think are well painted. You know how it is. You guys are artists,
Right. You look at past work and you're like, yeah, that's where I was.
Yeah, I should have, not sold. And what, while we're on that subject, what bugs me the most is when someone buys a painting, or I give them a painting, and then sometime after that, 10 years or even 1 year after, I'm in their house and I see it and I don't like it. I know they still like it, and I want to make a swap. I want to take something I think is good and make the swap. So that's, you can't really do that because by then you don't own it. It's not yours.
You can't do that.
It's too late.
It's too late.
You can't tell them, hey, that thing that you like isn't good. I have to take it out of your house.
No, that probably wouldn't go well. And they're probably, in that moment, just thinking about how lucky they are that you're here and with that painting that they bought, that they love so much, that they look at every day and has become a part of them. Yeah.
Well, and there is the potential flip side where they understand at some point, oh, it's not that good. But you have to let them do that too.
People don't think that way, I don't think.
Well, and even if they do, it's out of your control.
You're not going to hear
about it. And that's a big part of art, is when stuff is in your control and when it's not.
So I'm thinking about the series that you did. So you did the vegetable series, and then you did a whole series based on photographs that you took, was it in Italy, of like sculptures?
So another representational painting series that I did was paintings of sculpture. Because I've always loved, classical sculpture often looks amazing, but it often looks most amazing when it's reprocessed through a photograph or a paintbrush or both. Mm-hmm. And so, because you can pick your angle and you can pick there's already been a lot of work done by the sculptor, and then there's work done by the museum with the lighting.
Right.
Then there's work done by you with your phone camera or your just camera.
Yeah.
And then you paint it. So there's all these layers.
Exactly.
And it's amazing to think that there's a guy back in Greece 2,000 years ago who sculpted something, perhaps a portrait of a long dead patron. And then I'm here in Los Angeles painting from my phone from a photograph in Italy.
That was well lit.
Yeah. So there's all these layers to it, and so my idea was to do that redigesting and see where I'd end up.
It's such an interesting thought to think about whether that original artist, if they were here in the room right now looking at that painting, whether they would even recognize it as their own work. Because of all the processes.
Right. I mean,
we'll never know the answer. Obviously.
Oh, and another layer of the digesting of history that I loved was these sculptures would get broken. there'd be noses and arms knocked off, heads.
Right.
So that could be a big part. So this was getting back into being a little edgier after the vegetable series. I was like, oh, you know, the sort of battered human form.
But it's still classical. People can
Yeah.
still live with that.
Yeah, it's still
You know, it's got
pleasant.
It's multi-dimensional in that you can look at it as, yes, battered human form, or you can look at, oh, classical sculpture
Yes.
reinterpreted by an artist, you know. So it's got a whole nother level.
And that was my goal. How can I make it fresh with composition and lighting and my style of painting? Keep it pretty representational, but do something. I'll show you when we go in there, but I have a bust of a woman, and in my painting, I leave a big space where her head would be, if she still had a head.
Oh.
So you see her breasts and her shoulders, and I think her arms are cut off, and the head is missing. But then I leave a nice big space for that. So it's like a portrait.
But she's missing her face.
But some crucial chunk is missing. So that's part of the little game I was enjoying in that project.
In working with these pieces, I mean, we haven't talked much about like the psychological process within yourself. I mean, what did you learn from doing these things?
So there's technical stuff you learn, and then there's
Personal stuff.
personal and social, like
Yeah.
how it's received by the outside and how you feel about it.
Yeah.
I mostly enjoyed it. Oh, one thing I really enjoyed was purchasing frames for these, because they're conventional oil paintings, and I decided to lay down some money and get real frames for them, which, as an artist, is a self-validating thing you can do. You can decide, okay, I know this guy, Aaron Ballard, who, do you know his frame shop?
Yeah.
If you're in LA, go to Ballard's Frames.
Yeah. They're over by the train tracks in Pasadena.
Yeah, he has a shop in Pasadena, and the first one was in Echo Park.
Oh.
Did that close?
Are you talking about like Ballard's Hardware and Ballard's Art?
No.
No, that's Ballard.
Yeah, it's Baller,
Anyway.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. No, I've never been to the place in Echo Park.
So he started in Echo Park, right on Sunset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he was for ages. And it's a crowded little store with all these great frames. And he's got great people working with him. And he's a terrific guy. If you want to go in and spend a couple $100, he'll see your work, and he knows he's done a lot of framing, and he's an artist himself.
Oh, nice.
And he's a delight to work with. And, you know, next thing you know, you're really not making money.
Right.
But I don't regret it. I had a great time. Once in a while, I would take something down there, pick out a frame, you know, hold up a few lengths of the frame against the art, and then I'd realize, oh, I'm not done with the painting. And I'd have to come back and like boost the highlights or make the painting more poppin' to match, to equal the frame that I knew was right.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. I so seldom frame my paintings.
Yeah.
I always choose to take those big, thick, you know, canvases and just paint the sides black, and then just say, you want to frame it, knock yourself out, because it's such a personal choice. I think sometimes when people put it in their rooms, you know, it is an extension of the art. But
and it's a big price tag.
Yeah.
If you're gonna buy a real frame, especially if you're going conventional and gilded or something, like you guys can see this abstraction.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then we have the abstraction episode. So you did a whole bunch of abstracts. Let's talk about this, because you know what? I have to say, there's a bunch of people that love abstracts in the group and work primarily in abstracts, and then there's a bunch of people that don't at all, and they're just one person in particular. Hello, Bonnie and Lindsay, if you're watching or will watch. And she said, "How do you even start?"
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. How did you start? What did you do? What was your idea? What was the germ?
So I'll just go back a little. I've always, since high school, I've made abstract paintings, and I've sort of usually done completely abstract or hyper realistic. Back in high school, especially, it's been hard for me to get somewhere in the middle.
That's where I travel, somewhere in the middle.
Natalie is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
If you guys have seen her work. And so in high school, I did some things where I would make the canvases. For some reason, we had a bunch of free burlap, and so I made a bunch of odd shapes, non-rectangular shapes, you know, and I would stretch them, and I would do blocks jobs and stuff, and they were pretty good for high school work. You know, they were okay. And then I continued in college to do some dabbling, and I learned about the history of abstraction, and I was usually not. I didn't feel like I had landed, and then so a couple years ago, I guess 5 years ago or so, I started doing abstractions, and I really dove deep. I went for a couple years, and I decided to use scraps of paper. We've discussed this street we're on, and one battle I fight is the trash blowing in the gate all the time and sweeping our steps, and
I have this problem too.
seeing people just they drive up and they stop and they dump crap out of their window or their door, and I have to not get into a fight with them.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, what's a positive thing I could do? I collected scraps off the sidewalk in the street that I thought were fun, and then I decided to use them in the paintings. So
Are these oils or acrylics?
these are oils.
They are oils, okay.
So for example, these are some scraps from the street, Figueroa Street, and I would get a title using the scraps. I call this one Crystal Clear Karate.
I like that.
And, you know, because one thing about abstraction is, what's it called? You know, in the 50s they would call it things like Cygnus X, or they'd use like pretentious sounding now, maybe a little pretentious sounding now, like Greek and Latin. And that was part of the culture of the time, was looking back and trying to justify, legitimize
I'm always looking for
abstraction.
When I see something like that and it's got a title, I'm always like, all right, I look at the title, you know,
Right.
Painted Hills, and I'm like, do I see them?
Right.
Are they there? You know, were they successful with their title in regard to the painting?
Yeah.
Sometimes it has nothing to do with anything. I don't know.
Well, in abstraction, the titling of an abstract piece is such a big spin on the viewer's experience. Because the viewer, if they're not that savvy about abstraction, they'll walk up and they'll go, oh, and they'll read a title, and then they'll digest the painting, or whatever the medium is, with the title as a filter. And so it's
guilty.
It's risky. Yeah. It's a big responsibility. I think untitled is not a bad way to go.
Sometimes, though, I look at paintings and I look at it and I try to decide whether I like it or not. And then I walk up to it and I go, Painted Hills.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, don't see it.
Yeah. Or sometimes there's a title that's just so outlandish.
Yeah.
And you know it really doesn't bear any easy connection with the picture. And that can be funny, too. I don't mind that. I mean, you know, do whatever the hell you want. That's an art motto of mine. Just have fun.
Are you doing a lot of painting right now?
Right now I'm not painting. I'm mainly writing songs and working on t-shirts.
Teach it. You can't see my...
Oh, yeah.
Here it is.
So this is Edvard Munch on the shirt worn by a Buddha, on the shirt worn by Natalie.
There you go.
And her shirt is sort of a comment on current times, where you might be doing yoga and trying to get over the nonsense, but inside there's still a little turmoil.
There's a little scream happening.
So this series of abstractions was the first time I've gotten somewhere. They're not all successful, but some of them work for me, and I still feel good about them, and I'm very proud. And I've had a few offers on this painting, but I'm holding out for real money because it's the best one. It's the one that for me worked best, and so I have a lot that are cheaper, but for this one it'll be real money, and you know that's just how I am.
On something like this, how do you pick your palette, your color palette?
Oh, so one thing I was enjoying was bouncing back and forth between the color palette that was happening in the painting and the scraps I got off the street. So I would color.
I'm going to move you guys a little closer.
Oh yeah. Come on in.
All right.
There you go.
There you go. A little closer to the painting. My hand's still here. All right.
So that's a hand for context.
There you go.
So I'd work with the collage elements and maybe color them a little bit with spray paint and oil paint, and then go back and forth using the colors on those and the colors in the painting and integrating them. So it gave me a bouncing off palette. It was a place to anchor the rest of the picture.
I really love the green and the orange together because they're so funky.
They are funky.
They are funky.
And this one's has landscape elements for sure.
Yeah.
I love Diebenkorn,
I do too.
especially his landscapes of the Bay Area and the Southwest. There's a time there when he does stuff a lot like this, and he just, for me, and for my visual, for pleasing my eyeballs, what he does for a 10, 12-year period is just the best. And so that's kind of, I wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel of abstraction. I was just trying to find how I would do it and make it about Figueroa Street with the included elements and with the fact that I'm on Figueroa Street doing the pictures.
Are you more attracted to abstracts at this point in time?
Oh, I love both. I love both.
You love both.
I think it's funny. The people in your group may be grappling with the fact that abstracts offer you.
I'm trying to get back in the picture here. Oh, there we go.
Abstracts offer you complete freedom. But then, what do you do?
Right? Well, exactly, and that's the thing. That's the thing that we talk about grappling with. I mean, people are always like, "Where do I start?" And I'm like, "Okay." I always think about give yourself some parameters.
Yeah.
You know,
give yourself some limitations.
You know, if you have 4 colors, if you give yourself only 4 colors to work with and see what happens.
I agree.
You know, or give yourself this much space and tell yourself that you have to have at least one big element in it and then see what happens. You know,
Yeah.
just make something up and go from there.
And a lot of it has to do with an understanding of composition. A lot of you guys may know Franz Klein. So Franz Klein was a 1950s abstractionist. Mostly, he did all kinds of abstraction. He even did representation. I think he did WPA.
WPA.
So that was in the Great Depression. It was the funding of artists to do all kinds of good things, and like Jackson Pollock and all these people who you wouldn't think of it. Maybe he didn't do it, but it did support a lot of artists through hard times. It was an actual paycheck, and they would do murals in post offices and stuff. Anyway, Franz Klein emerged from that and decided to use house paint, black and white mostly, and do these big shapes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, now I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And if you guys see him, you'll probably be, yeah, you'll do the same thing. You'll be like, oh yeah, this guy's amazing. But one tricky thing about him is his angles are always fresh. They're not 45 degrees, 90 degrees. They're always like 87 degrees, 12 degrees. They play with the rectangle, and they give you. He comes up with great compositions, and he was able to do that because he was an excellent artist who studied it for ages and knew how to do Van Gogh level drawing before he got into abstraction. And I think that is one secret behind great abstract paintings or pictures, is that there is a geometry involved that is fresh, and someone like Franz Klein had it.
I love that. All right, here, I want to talk about these.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so, I mean, during this whole time that you're doing art, you're also obviously exploring music. And there's a place where it comes together for Tim, and I just want to talk about a couple of these things. So, I mean, I'm holding up, he's got, how many CDs?
Well, we have 12 records out. I got a little pile here. That's not all of them.
Talk about prolific. But the great thing is that every single one of these CD covers, I mean, he generated all the art for it. I don't know if you can see that.
They're mostly oil paintings. One challenge with making oil paintings,
One of my favorites.
That's
right
a watercolor.
There. Yeah.
Making art for your CDs is then there's the printing process. And
Well, how was this? What was this medium?
so that's one of these abstractions.
I know the abstraction.
But then I
on the
staged
back.
some stuff on it.
Oh, and then you shot the picture from.
So that's a photograph of staged things on top of an abstraction.
This one doesn't count. But this one, this is the T-shirt he's wearing right now.
Ta-da! That's our newest record, Highland Park 2.
And then this one, Etchy Sketchy Skies.
You got it. That's another oil painting.
Yeah. And then, there was an album called 26 Animals. And so there was a book that went along with the record. And I really need one of these. But every page is watercolor with the songs and the chords so that you can follow along at home. But I mean, they're extraordinary.
My idea was to make a songbook. Do you want me to do a song out of there?
Yeah, let's do a song out of 25.
Go to
26
Rattlesnake.
Animals. Go to Rattlesnake. I don't know why he's telling me to go there. He knows
Well,
this song.
No, it's for you to show the people.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
So it's a whole alphabet of...
L-M-N-O-P, Q.
There you go.
Where is it? Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Okay. All right, here's the rattlesnake. And Tim's got his guitar right here. All right, go for it.
Rattlesnake has got two ends. One makes noise, the other venom. She's got some pointy teeth for biting you. If you go hiking out into the sand, she's a snake you don't want to step on. She's warning you to watch your feet. Every year she gets another rattle to shake and make a noise, and she's preparing for a battle. Every year her fangs will grow a little. They deliver venom like a hypodermic needle. She's got some pointy teeth for biting you. So if you hear rattling close to the trail, you got to back up a bit until you see her. She's warning you to watch your feet.
That's great. Thank you.
Well,
that
thank
was
you.
awesome. This is. I mean, all your songs, I think, are kid friendly.
We have a couple cursing songs,
Oh yeah, that's
but
right.
not that many.
But not that many.
No.
But this one especially for kids.
Yeah,
And
that's our family record.
it's just
And sometimes
so fun.
people think we're a family band, but I would like to point out we're only 1/12 a family band.
Only 1/12 the family.
Well, if we have 12 records out,
Oh.
you know, but once you make a kids record, then
Yeah, it's
everyone
all
thinks,
over.
oh, you're a kids band. But, you know, if you need us to, we can curse.
So, okay. So now I'm going to move over to music for you. Now, just the way you talked about art and about being all in and being all in on the guitar, that's what I feel like you've done on your records. Because, I mean, it's like you pick a subject and then you are in. So let's talk about the one that got you sort of like some critical acclaim, the 26 Scientists.
So I started Artichoke.
Here, I'm going to pull this one. Volume 20. There's volume 1 and 2.
That's right. I started Artichoke way back
Volume 1.
in the 20th century.
volume 2. And I just want to say that I was a brief member of his band.
Yes.
For I don't know, 10 minutes or something.
Probably 15.
Maybe. Enough to make us friends. So
Yeah. So you see, it's possible.
it's possible.
I mean, so I started Artichoke in kind of 99-ish, and the first sort of stable lineup, we made a record called Evaporation,
Oh.
which isn't here because
No.
I'm not going to play any songs off it.
Oh, okay.
But that was when I was getting over my public playing and blah blah blah, and so we did pretty well with that, and then gradually we kind of fragmented, and so around 2003-ish, I thought, well, I'm reinventing this band. I will do an insanely narrow concept album, biographical songs about scientists, but I'm going to try to make it indie rock, Pixies style. So, you know, not like ambitious or anything. But
No, I think this is great. This is awesome because now you have like your self-imposed rules that you have a little box that you have to work within. You can jump out of the box whenever you want, but
oh yeah.
you know.
Well, And I will say, being a slave, okay, so it's nice to have limitations, but sometimes when you give yourself an ambitious assignment, it can be
Daunting?
daunting. It can put you through your own self-invented hell. And so I love some of this, but that's how I got gray hair.
It's your own fault.
It is my own fault, no question about it. So I wrote I think the first one I wrote that was really good was called, in my opinion, was about Mary Anning, the first female paleontologist.
Oh, cool.
And it's all on 5s and 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So that's the bass line.
Yes.
So you need a good bass player for that.
Yeah.
And then you
That's nice.
sing over it, which
No,
Natalie is.
No. So keep going.
So
Deflect.
which one of us is deflecting?
Go.
Well, you have the right to deflect in this context.
Yes, thank you.
So that was coming along pretty well, and then another female scientist, Marie Curie, which was a big, heartfelt 6/8 or 3/4, anyway, a waltz time song about her husband being hit by a horse-drawn wagon and dying, and she kept on working, and a very, very emotional song for me. Like I think a lot of people feel emotions, but they can't Kurt Cobain style get them out. Mm-hmm. And so, and that may be good because look how he went. But so sometimes I do a song which is for me pretty emotional, and I really felt that one, and so I was doing pretty well. I got the first half of the alphabet, A through M, and I got some people on there. It's mostly solo, but there's some great players on there. Fredo Ortiz from the Beastie Boys plays drums on 4 of those songs, and that record came out. We got a big article in the New York Times. Which is how I made a lot of my most geeky friends out there, and then I had to make the second half. I had to make the next half of the album, and honestly, if you have narrow constraints on an artistic project, mm-hmm. it can be harder to make other people do this thing. So that was one thing I was fighting. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. It's easier to make yourself do something crazy,
right,
than to make a group of 6 or 7 or 8 people do something crazy.
Right, because now you're containing their creativity,
yeah.
and they may not be as open to that. I understand that,
and especially within the limitations of budget. In other words, unpaid.
Right.
Any of you have been in a band or collaborated with another artist, it's not hard if you give them complete freedom and if you have money to pay them. But the less freedom you can give them and the less money you have to pay them,
even when you can give them money,
tougher it's going to get.
Even when you can give them money and you give them freedom, you don't always get what you want.
Of course.
Yeah.
So the second half was really tough. But eventually got that out there, finished it. It's one of those things, as an artist, I was like, I must finish the second half of the alphabet. Who's that guy who did the 50 states? There was an artist, a musician at the time, he did Illinois, and he was getting all this press he was like, he's going to do a whole album for each state. And he got tons of press because he did one state.
Oh, and he never did any others?
I think he may have done one other state. So he did 2 out of 50, and I was like, I didn't want to be that guy.
Right.
Like, I envied his press, but I wanted to do the thing I said I was going to do.
Right, especially when you get attention,
yeah.
And you tell people this is what's happening,
yeah.
and you want to come through because people are looking.
So, and I suppose also it goes back to my art school time was like, concepts, we were told we needed to have concept and be rigorous about it. And so, if I set forth on a crazy idea, I'm going to finish it.
Yeah.
But it was pretty tough, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
But I got the second half out there, and then I kept on making sometimes concept records, making sometimes more broad, less concept records, so I could have a little more freedom.
Yeah. Other concept records that you made were like the Bees record.
Yeah.
That definitely all about bees, which one of my favorites.
So this one, would you like a little tune off this one?
Sure.
Let's see.
Go, can you play me Melissa?
Oh, I didn't really practice that one.
Oh.
I could though. Yeah.
Okay, you could do something else.
Well,
do whatever you want.
let's do a Bees song after some other song. But anyway, I enjoyed this is a pretty tight concept and watercolor cover.
Yeah.
And but the good thing about the Bees record was, if a song didn't work, I didn't have to make it work. I just had to come up with 13 or so songs.
Oh, right, because you
know,
didn't have something that you were after. You didn't have 26 people.
Right.
You didn't have.
I didn't have like the letter X,
Yeah.
Xenophanes of ancient Greece.
Right.
I didn't have to make that darn
Right.
song work, and so it didn't feel quite as hard.
Okay, play me a B song.
All right, let's see. What are we gonna do? You know what? Let's do a scientist song first. Let's do Galileo.
Galileo.
We already talked
yeah,
about that.
Galileo.
So the recording of this is all distorted bass, but
I don't know what this sounds like, you guys.
Galileo, Galileo bought a telescope. It had instant what was distant appeared so close. Added to the gadget another lens, magnifying objects and making friends. Galileo found that Jupiter had 4 moons. 2 supporters of Copernicus with good news. Chose to disagree with the Catholic Church. There may be a center, but it's not Earth. Insert feedback. Galileo, Galileo bought a telescope. For geocentric theory there was no hope. The year was 1633. They locked him in his house and they lost the key. Want to count to 4?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ta-da!
Yay!
So, that's one of the surviving scientist songs.
Wait, you said bees.
Oh, you want a B song?
Bees.
Okay, yeah.
And
Bees.
this, and we're running
We have
out of time, so this
Nice.
might be our last song.
You know,
All
you're
right,
right.
we're gonna go out on this.
Oh, you know what?
I
want
told
to play
you.
a brand new song.
Oh, okay, play a brand
Yeah.
new song. Like you said.
Yeah.
I told you time would just.
Time has
You have
flown.
no idea. When before I got here, he's like, "We're gonna go in the backyard. We're
Yeah.
gonna go see art. We're gonna go." I was like, "How much time do you think we have?"
Yeah. You know, it's because you're allowing me, to talk about myself, and it's just time flies when you're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
So here's a brand new one. I've been working on writing a bunch of new songs, and I don't know what the record will be called, but maybe it's not a concept record. Here's a little. I won't even tell you anything about it.
Oh, we got a little drum machine.
Soon you will get a little bit older, then you will get a whole lot older, then you will die. So raise a glass to here and now, yeah, raise a glass. Or don't raise a glass. If that's what you prefer, let's raise a glass to those who'd rather not raise a glass. suspect that we're bad news. I suspect that too. So raise a glass to those alien snobs. Yeah, raise a glass. Or don't raise a glass if that's what you prefer. Let's raise a glass to those who'd rather not raise a glass. Here comes the group participation if you want. 1, 2, 3. La 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 la. La 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 la. Last night we slept with the windows open. The rain came down pretty loud at times. The rain doesn't rhyme, so why should this? I'll raise a glass to songs that don't rhyme. Yeah, raise a glass. Or don't raise a glass if that's what you prefer. Let's raise a glass to those who'd rather not raise a glass. La 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 la. La 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 la. One more. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Yay! That was fun.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, that's the end of our interview for today.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you, Tim. High five. Woo! Have a nice weekend. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.